Hello again, Year 10. Welcome back to the second half of the summer term. Not long until you're in school now. Hopefully you all had a lovely break over half-term week. Got some sunshine, got some relaxation, and made sure that you're all ready to go for this last half-term. Now, with this week's work is to do with command words and practicing longer answer questions. So you've got a starter, of course, on this first slide, which is 3 knowledge organiser questions. Knowledge organisers were emailed out at the start of lockdown. They're also available on Teams. So if you don't already know these off by heart, you are going to want to pause the video here while you look up the answers. Okay, and here we are, straightforward answers. The answers are in red, that is, they all come from the knowledge organisers. Remember, the knowledge organisers are the basic knowledge that you need to have as you go into Year 11, so that you're ready to do really well in your exams. It'll give you the basics, it'll give you the vocabulary, give you the equations, and they are really good foundations on which to make good progress and good results at the end of Year 11. So here come your objectives for this week. You've got 2 basic objectives. The first one is to recognise these command words: compare, describe, explain, complete, calculate, state, give, name, suggest, evaluate, and importantly, know what they require as an answer. And there are 4 practice questions at the end of this PowerPoint, and I need you to submit your answers to those questions via Teams to obtain some feedback. If you really can't manage Teams, put them on email, but Teams is better because it does give me a feedback option and it makes it really easy for me to track it and for you to have it because everything's all in one place. Right, command words. These are words that are important in exam questions. They actually tell you what you need to do. You don't have to guess. You know what they mean and how to use them. You are ahead of the game. You need to understand them so that your answer to a question is focused and appropriate. Now, one of the ones that people find most tricky, so we're going to concentrate for 4 or 5 slides, is the word compare. Not comparing meerkats, but you've got that little link there in real life. Compare asks you to describe the similarities and the differences between 2 things. You need to mention both. What is the same? What is the different? If you can use a word such as but, you don't actually link them until you make a reference from the first half to the second. So you might say these are similar, however the parts that are different are. A good way to do this is actually using comparative adjectives such as larger than, deeper than, longer than, etc. I'll have a little bit of practice here. So quite straightforward, not science first of all, something you'll be able to relate to really easily. You have got 2 images. Compare these 2 images could be the question. So remember, you are going to be looking for similarities and differences. You want to get 1 or 2 under each category: similarities and differences. Pause the video while you write those down now. So, a suggested answer. Both these images show cars. That's a similarity. We know they're both cars. They have 4 wheels. They have 2 passenger doors. 2 more similarities. Not all cars have 4 wheels. We'll all have seen the 3-wheeler car in Only Fools and Horses, I'm sure, an old-fashioned Reliant Robin. These cars have 2 passenger doors. A lot of cars have 4. That's the first part. The second part of the answer starts with a but, and these are the differences. But the red car is a more sporty design with a long bonnet, so say what it is and how you recognise that, while the police car is more conventional with a practical design. So this is a sentence about differences. But and while are conjunctions that allow you to make a comparison. They indicate the relationship between the differences and why they are like that. Hoping this is making a bit of sense to you now. don't worry, we've got more practice before we get on to the real questions. Here goes again. Compare these two images. What are the similarities? What are the differences? Pause it while you do it, write it down. Okay, they are both apples. One has red skin, another one has green skin. One is intact, the other one has been bitten. Really obvious. They don't ask you to comment on anything that is not obvious in exam conditions. Next one now. Compare these two types of cell. You don't have to know the cells, you just have to compare them. Right, here are all the commonly used command words and what you need to do for each one. So describe tells you need to recall some facts, events or processes. Okay, explain, give reasons why something happens. Complete, so that's writing answers in spaces given, a table, a diagram or a sentence. Calculate, use data given, show your working, include your units. Fairly obvious, but you'd be surprised how often people forget them. And if you give an answer but you don't have the workings out, if it is correct, you'll get the marks. If you've made one little mistake, you'll lose them. So that's why you show them working out. Include the units to show that you're clear what you're doing. Suggest and evaluate, quite straightforward again. These words need to be known by you. I would suggest that you put them into your own words in your science book or your team's notebook. And I would suggest that you pause the video while you do that. Okay, practice question number 1. The question is on the left. Explain why competition between animals of the same species is so much more intense than competition between different species, worth 1 mark. Hints on the right hand side. The command word is explain. Secondly, think about what is a species. I've told you underneath, identical animals or plants with identical requirements and they are able to produce offspring. How many marks? Only 1 mark, only write 1 sentence. Have a go. I'm not giving you any more feedback than this because this is the first answer that you will be sending in to me, clearly identified as question 1. Pause the video while you do it. Question 2, you've got a diagram of part of a gorse plant. You've got some labels on it. Suggest, go back to your keywords to find out what that means, how each of the labelled features, so the only bits you're looking for, the labels here, small leaves, sharp spines, flowers, help the gorse plant to survive. 3 marks. 1 mark for each of them. So what is the how does the feature help it survive? Not what is the feature, they've already told you that. Part 2, organisms compete in order to survive. Give 3 resources that plants compete for. 3 marks. That is not from the illustration. That is something you need to know. Remember, while you answer both parts of this question, you will need to pause the video. It should take about 1 minute per mark. Third question, you've got 2 images and you've got some information or data that go with them. I don't need to read the question to you, you're quite capable of doing that. You've got keyword in red, again, suggest. You've also got an underlined phrase, you use information from the table, so you don't have to guess anything, you have to use what they have given you. Quite straightforward, you would think. Remember, this is 6 marks, so it's going to take 6 to 8 minutes, and pause the video while you answer it. Final question. This is a really long one, a 6 marker. That means you've got a chance to really show off. You've got a lot of information here. The picture is an extra by me. I thought you'd like it. Now, you've got information there. You do not need to look up anything else. You're not going to be able to do that in exam. So use what's there and what you already know to answer this question. Explain. Go back to your keywords, find out what you need to do with that. How the habitat, you know that word, that's a keyword from our topic, and life cycle, you know what that is already, of bluebells help them to survive. 6 marks. So you're going to write 3 marks about the 3 bits of information about the habitat and 3 bits about the life cycle to do your 6 marks all together. Yeah, and 6 marks should take about 6 minutes. And that means you are going to need to pause the video while you do it now. And finally, we have our objective review. You need to recognise these command words and know what they mean. You can come up with a mnemonic, a word made out of the initials to start help you. You can come up with a song, you come up with pictures, whatever works for you. But you need to know what to do for each one. You should have answered all 4 practice questions, and you need to send those answers to me via, ideally via Teams, otherwise via email, in order to obtain your feedback. You also need to be looking out for a Seneca task on Wednesday, and you will also need to be looking out by the end of the week for feedback on your tests that were done just before half term. It's taken a while because a few people were a little bit late and we don't want to miss anyone out. But hopefully you didn't get too stressed by those. So if you get stuck, go back to the tutorial, rewatch it. Go to Teams if you need a copy of the Knowledge Organiser, it's on there for you. Workbook there on there for you as well, so you can keep everything in one place and you won't run out of paper. Any other queries, any worries, please do contact me. Take care, speak to you soon. Bye.